On the evening of Christmas Eve, a seriously injured man in a traffic accident was sent to the hospital. 4 of his ribs were broken and 2 were inserted into his lungs. Sugh. Thanks to the rejuvenation of Dr. Wang, the director of surgery, this unfortunate person turned the corner. The family members are naturally grateful to the medical staff, especially the old mother of the wounded, who took Dr. Wang's hand and praised hundreds of times that Hua Tuo is alive, young and promising, and a great talent. The more the old lady looked at this doctor, the more she liked him. She had a good look, a good job and high skills. She became the director of surgery at a young age. Yet, Dr. Wang smiled and said, "No." The old lady was overjoyed. She screened the single girls from relatives and friends over and over in her mind, and tentatively said, "Oh, don't be too picky." Dr. Wang still smiled, "I'm not single, I'm not single." The little flame in the old lady's heart hiss went out. She knew that her son was fine, and she didn't care much. After she came out, she asked a few nurses, "Director Wang, his partner is also a doctor." Several nurse sisters were shocked. When did Wulai Jinjin have a partner? This gossip quickly spread throughout the hospital. Dr. Wang walked through the corridor after get off work and stepped on all the broken hearts of girls. Dr. Wang's name is Jin, my father is a mine, a second-generation mine, born with disabilities but with great ambitions, no bad hobbies, no car, no watch, no, determined to be a doctor since childhood, studied hard every day, went through a long road to study, and finally realized his ideal. If you want to say that he is professional, he is still a good professional communication player. He has been in this tertiary hospital for a few years, and no one in the hospital from leaders to temporary workers dislikes him. At the beginning of the year, the director of surgery retired. Taking advantage of the right time, place, and people, I filled up the place directly in minutes. It doesn't matter if you are professional and know how to communicate. He is still handsome, with thick eyebrows and star eyes, a high nose bridge, a sharp chin, and a curved lip line. He looks tall and thin, and he can lift 180 pounds by himself. The patient, when not wearing a white coat, is walking hormones. Wearing a white coat is like an angel fowling, smiling, and asking what's wrong. Lay down and let me see, who can stand it? Some of his patients have recovered and stayed in the hospital for several days, refusing to be discharged home, at least in double digits. However, such a superb man is an unmarried family. But not getting married and not falling in love can't be equated. Dr. Wang's fans still have small expectations in their hearts, even if they can't enter the marriage hall. Just talk to him, love, this life is also worth it. The premise of love is that Dr. Wang has no object. How can he have a partner? Which leprechaun is that? A few hours later, they really met a goblin. Because the surgery worked overtime until 11 o'clock, the original appointment could only be a waste. After Wang Jin left the hospital, he went to his favorite Western restaurant alone and chose a seat by the window. The operation was too exhausting. He ate 2 steaks by himself, and finally put down the knife and fork with satisfaction. There are not many customers in the restaurant anymore, but there are still many young people in pairs outside the window, playing or having fun on the street, or you and me, and the small square not far away is lively and noisy. Some businesses are holding a countdown carnival. Looking at the time, it was only 10 minutes before midnight. Wang Jin decided to join in the fun. The fun didn't make it up, but it was a trouble. Just as he was standing outside the crowd, he saw the person in front of him crooked, and he was about to fall. Arms. Alcohol smell, red face, blurred eyes, slightly high body temperature, slightly fast pulse, no sickness, is a drunk. Wang Jin tried to make the drunk stand up straight, but the other party hugged him without warning and buried his face in his chest, crying loudly. He couldn't say enough affectionate, endless grievances. WTF? The surrounding people automatically retreated to the side, keeping a safe distance from the couple who were arguing. I looked around, and no one seemed to know this guy. Drunk people are not very unreasonable, and the thin arms and thin legs are quite strong, like Wang Jin, who is stuck by a piece of cowhide candy. A little farther away from the crowd, the man was still crying softly, and he wrapped his arms around Wang Jin's waist and refused to let go. The countdown has reached 9, and no one is looking at them around. Wang Jin lost his patience, pulled the hand from his waist ungently, and said impatiently, I'm not blind, I know how to pick the most handsome Pengkai when I'm drunk. The drunk raised a tear-stained face. On the square, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang! The LED screen suddenly lit up, and the background music of Jingle Bells scattered fireworks, illuminating the night, like day. Wang Jin, he saw the face of the little drunk. This guy is too good looking. Wang Jin is a sexist, both men and women are fine, as long as they look good. But compared with the crying mixed-race beauty in front of me, the one with 7 points, out. Lovelorn? He asked. Yet. The beautiful boy with red eyes cuddled up and hugged him again. Excellent, Wang Jin thought. He originally wanted to take the boy to the hotel, but it was unlikely that there would be any vacancies on Christmas Eve, so he took the boy home. The boy fell asleep on the road. When he got home, he took the man out of the car and carried him upstairs all the way. The boy was cooperating in his arms like a kitten. He rubbed his chest a few times with his pretty face. She looks so good, her coquetry skills are almost perfect, but the bed is a little worse. How to evaluate? It's too dry, and I have no experience in seeing the reaction. The beautiful boy cried and cried for his ex, but his ex was really rude. Wang Jin thought to himself, if he was the boy's ex, he must have such a beauty long ago. It is dawn. Wang Jin has a good biological clock. He wakes up naturally at 7 o'clock every morning. Before he opens his eyes, the touch of nephrite in his arms reminds him of the night of spring love last night. Again in the morning light. He just moved when the boy woke up. Who are you? The half-breed beauty who was still moaning in his arms a few hours ago turned her face away and said with anger, What have you done to me? You are a crime. Wang Jin said with a smile, Yesterday, I hugged others and didn't let go, and kept calling me brother, but today I said they were a crime? Don't be so callous and unreasonable to make trouble, okay? Before yesterday, he had never drank Chinese baijiu. He did not understand that this liquid was not only spicy, but also had a long stamina. It was terrifying to get drunk. I know the way home, but I can't go back. He came to China less than half a year ago. He speaks Chinese, but he knows only a limited number of Chinese characters, and his knowledge of Beijing is very shallow. He only remembers the instructions of his family. Don't run around the school gate, and go to crowded places if you feel it's dangerous. After being drunk, he felt that it was not safe anywhere, and followed his instinct to squeeze into a crowded place. And then that person came, not only hugged him, but also smiled so tenderly at him, took him by the hand and took him home, and finally did such a thing to him, although it was very painful, but he was very happy, he liked that person giving him such pain. So who is this bastard? Wang Jin was stared fiercely by the boy for a long time, and after some recollection, he realized that he was wrong last night. The boy was not disappointed in love and wanted to have a French prostate massage to vent his frustration. Instead, he mistook the person he met by chance as a stand-in for someone. The heartthrob Dr. Wang is of course not happy, but the price is also taken up, there is always some gentleman's demeanor, and he comforted, it's common to mess around after drinking, don't think so hard, I'm like when you were this old, you once got drunk in my brother's Santa gloves. After speaking, he laughed first. Stop laughing halfway through. Because Yan Rong cried. I cried so hard, my tears popped. Like every young man whose first night is not for the one he loves, he is almost heartbroken with sadness. Wang Jin was very embarrassed, he got up silently and put on his clothes, and picked up the boy's coat that was thrown on the ground last night. The floor was clean, but he still took a few shots and it didn't exist dust. 2 cards fell out of his pocket, he picked it up, a credit card, a student ID card from a nearby international school. The photo was of the boy himself, the name column wrote Yan Rong, and the class column wrote Yan Rong the first, second, class of senior high school, and the nationality is Swedish. Only a freshman in high school? Wang Jin looked at the boy sitting on the bed crying and asked, Yan Rong? Are you an adult? Yan Rong wiped her tears and said coldly, I've been an adult for 6 days. Wang Jin calmly took the mobile phone and walked into the bathroom. After closing the door, he quickly beta searched. He a kid. Having with a beautiful person will give Wang Jin a greater sense of pleasure, but his private life is not chaotic. He will always have a fixed beautiful bed partner for a period of time. Before the burnout period arrives, he will not go out hunting for beauty. Have been with the last bed partner for more than 3 months, and separated 2 weeks ago. The reason is that the other party met the real life. He sent blessings, and sincerely hoped that the other party can live well. When he brought Yan Rong home, he really wanted to develop a stable relationship with this beautiful boy, as long as the boy himself did not object. Yan Rong's reaction in bed last night was a little jerky, but she was active and frank. From Wang Jin's experience, a young man who has just been emotionally injured will usually not refuse until he recovers, enjoy short-term, unfettered sexual relationships. The premise of all these inferences is adults with full responsibility. Yan Rong is just over 6 days away from this limit. The development of mixed-race children is better than that of ordinary Asians. If you don't look at Yan Rong's documents, no one will suspect that he is a college student. And last night, Yan Rong took the initiative to give him his arms. In fact, the responsibility is not entirely on Wang Jin. But Wang Jin is an old driver in his 30s. The other party is a child. Aside. Wang Jin sighed in front of the mirror, what a sin. He came out of the bathroom, the boy was squatting on the floor naked, picking up the crumpled t-shirt. The two looked at each other. Yan Rong quickly lowered his head, and shrank his body in panic. Wang Jin, who was treated as a beast, said embarrassedly, I'm going to help you find some clean clothes. Why don't you take a shower first? Yan Rong squatted there and didn't move. Wang Jin went out embarrassedly, closed the door, and deliberately stepped further away. Draw a stranger on the road and come back to do this kind of thing, would it be a good person? Wang Jin called the hospital to ask for a half-day leave, and then went to the closet of his brother's room on the 3rd floor to find clothes. Clothes definitely don't work. His younger brother is 1.82 meters, so he can wear it. The villa he lives in now belongs to his father. The old man disliked the air of Beijing and took his mother back to his hometown in the northeast a few years ago. He has an older brother and a younger brother. He originally lived here. His older brother got married and moved out. After his younger brother worked, he thought it was far from the company and moved out. He was the only one left to live in this THRESTRE villa of more than 1,000 square meters. I can hear the echo when I make a phone call in the living room downstairs at night. Yan Rong in the room took a quick shower, and the sticky feeling on the skin finally improved a lot, but the discomfort inside the body could not be washed away. There was a real pain, the 2 protrusions on the chest were congested and swollen into a deep red, and even they were a little sore. He remembered trying to open his body to accommodate the shyness and embarrassment of each other last night. How happy he was then, how embarrassing he is now. Wang Jin took the clothes and came over. He stepped up when he approached the door of his room, coughed twice, and then knocked on the door. The door opened slowly. Yan Rong hid behind the door, revealing only a beautiful face with red eyes and water dripping down from her hair. Wang Jin handed over the clothes and said, it's new, the tag hasn't been picked yet, but it's a bit big, you can make do with it. Yan Rong hesitated to take it. Wang Jin smiled at him, turned and walked away. The shirt was indeed a bit long, so Yan Rong tucked it into his jeans, rolled up his sleeves a few times, put on his coat, touched his pockets, only a credit card and a student ID, 0 wallets and phones were gone. Accidentally lost it after getting drunk. The international school was on Christmas break, but he didn't go home and lost his mobile phone. He thought a little indifferently, the family would be anxious if they couldn't find him. He came downstairs neatly dressed. The man sitting on the sofa in the living room put down his mobile phone and asked, "Are you hungry? Would you like something to eat?" The man's attitude was very mild, and he was completely different from his original slutty appearance. This attitude change occurred after seeing his documents. Yan Rong's heart was actually a little awkward. He was still brooding about having with strangers, but he didn't like being treated like a child either. So he tried his best to look like an adult who doesn't care about one-night stands, and said with a straight face, "I'm not hungry, I'm going home." Wang Jin could see it naturally, but he didn't pierce it, and said with the same expression, "Where is my home? I'll take it to you." Yan Rong refused, "No, I will go back myself." Wang Jin said, "You don't have any cash or mobile phone, how can you go back?" Yan Rong said, "You don't have to worry about it." He stalked his neck and walked outside. Wang Jin saw those two small legs trembling slightly. I am afraid that he could not even get out of the gate of the community. As Wang Jin thought, Yan Rong walked less than 100 meters after going out, and then she couldn't walk completely, her back was hot and painful, her legs had no strength, and her waist was almost straight. If he couldn't get up, he had to bend down and support his knees, dizzy and wishing to faint immediately. A red car slowly stopped beside him, the window was down, and Wang Jin in the driver's seat looked at him. Yan Rong looked pale, panted and glanced at him, then lowered his head. Wang Jin didn't say anything, just waited there. Yan Rong felt that she was so embarrassed, the ugly state between the bed and the ugly appearance of collapsing and crying, all of which have been seen by this person, and he did not want to lose face in front of this person at all. But he really couldn't move. Half a minute later, he straightened up, opened the passenger's door, and sat in. Wang Jin actually wanted to laugh, but seeing that he was about to cry with red eyes, he had to bear it back and asked, "Where are you going?" Yan Rong's voice was a little more hoarse than before, and he said the name of a community, which was a European-style high-end community that opened last year. Wang Jin nodded and said, "I know where it is. I have a friend who also lives there. I went there when he just moved." Yan Rong didn't say anything, he just felt sad and angry now. The car drove out for a while. Wang Jin guessed that he had calmed down a little, so he asked, "Listen to your accent, how long has it been since you came to China?" Yan Rong lowered his head, but did not ignore anyone, and said, 5 months. "The Chinese is not bad." Wang Jin pointed to the storage drawer in front of the passenger, and said, "There are chocolates and juices in it, you can open them yourself." Yan Rong said, "No." Wang Jin stopped mentioning it, and said, "I came with my parents? Which of them are Chinese?" After a while, Yan Rong said slowly, "My mother is of Chinese descent." Wang Jin noticed something. Yan Rong continued, "They are all dead, the crash." Wang Jin was taken aback. Yan Rong didn't want to be sympathized by him, so he pretended not to care. "I was adopted, my adoptive father, he treats me very well." Wang Jin was holding the steering wheel with sweaty palms, Swedish nationality, adopted and living in the same community. It wouldn't be so coincidental, would it? He looked at Yan Rong and asked, "Is Liang Xi your father?" Yan Rong was also stunned. "You know him?" "More than knowing." Liang Xi is Wang Jin's youngest, 2 years younger than him, and they play in the mud together when they wear open crotch pants. "It's still very good, and I'll keep in touch when everything is fine." Liang Xi is gay, and his object is an actor. After a while, they both became Swedish citizens and got a marriage certificate. This spring, Liang Xi showed off to his friends that he was going to adopt a baby soon, but in the summer, he was downcast and told everyone that the relevant Swedish authorities were too stupid. The good thing is to adopt a pink, tender, and lovely baby, but the welfare agency gave them a teenage half-sized child, and they didn't give it back. Originally, I wanted to bring the child to everyone to watch, but after listening to other friends, Liang Xi directly threw the kid into the international school and let him die on his own. That kid is Yan Rong? Yan Rong looked at Wang Jin in disbelief, thought of several possibilities, and asked nervously, "You, who are you?" Wang Jin looked straight ahead and said, "I'm your uncle." Yan Rong glared at Wang Jin and said, "Your uncle?" Wang Jin, he realized that this sentence was in Yan Rong's Chinese library, and it was just a curse word. He had to explain his relationship with Liang Xi to Yan Rong. Yan Rong finally figured out that this uncle is not his uncle. "Your uncle is really you uncle, and his face is even more ugly." Wang Jin also didn't know what to say. This generation is really messed up. He asked, "How do you usually call Liang Xi?" "Call him Dad." Yan Rong replied reluctantly, "Brother Liang Xi." His voice is between a teenager and an adult male, a little hoarse at the end of the voice change period, and he speaks Chinese very straightly. The second word of brother is not soft, but make a loud noise. Wang Jin couldn't help but twitch his tail. When he was passionate last night, Yan Rong also called him crying in this tone. His mind was swaying for a moment, and he said, "Then you can also call me brother Wang Jin." This is the first time Yan Rong has heard his name. He didn't understand it very well, and repeated, "Wang Jin." Wang Jin said, "Fei Wang's king, Jianzhou's brocade." Yan Rong, who studied Chinese hard, unconsciously wrote with her right index finger in the heart of her left hand and asked, "Is Jianzhou also a star?" "How to write?" Wang Jin laughed and said, "It's the splendid brocade. Jianzhou is a place name. I was born there. My dad was lazy and gave me this name." Yan Rong wrote the word Jianzhou in the palm of her hand, but she remembered that it was wrong, and said in a disgusting tone, "Wang Jianzhou, no matter what relationship you have with brother Liang Xi, don't talk nonsense in front of him." Wang Jin, whose name was changed out of thin air, deliberately said, "What did you say in front of him?" Yan Rong's two index fingers twisted together fiercely, imagining that she was twisting Wang Jin's neck, and said in a low voice angrily, "You know what I said?" Wang Jin said, "I don't know." Yan Rong took a few quick breaths, and finally said the word, "You seduced me." Wang Jin said, "I'm wronged for this. It's obviously you who hugged me and insisted on going home with me." Yan Rong said angrily, "I don't." Wang Jin emphasized, "Yes." Yan Rong said, "No." Wang Jin said, "Really?" Yan Rong said loudly, "No." Wang Jin, "No." Yan Rong looked angry. Wang Jin said sincerely, "I remember, I can't tell him that I seduced you, then what?" Yan Rong was startled, and his face became even paler. Wang Jin reminded him kindly, "There are juices and chocolates in the drawer, do you want to replenish your energy and chat with me?" Yan Rong thought angrily, he will never say a word to this person again. When he got downstairs to his house, he got out of the car without saying a word to go, but Wang Jin also got out of the car and followed him. He looked at Wang Jin vigilantly and had to say, "What are you doing?" Wang Jin said, "Send you home." Yan Rong opened her eyes wide and scolded, "You are crazy." Wang Jin innocently said, "Eldest nephew, if I don't go up, how will you explain to your father that you didn't come home last night?" Yan Rong didn't quite understand what eldest nephew was, so he asked fiercely, "What do you want to say to him?" Wang Jin asked him, "What do you want me to say?" Yan Rong pointed in the direction of the gate and said, "I hope you leave quickly." Wang Jin said, "No." Yan Rong said, "You are so annoying." Wang Jin couldn't stop laughing, this kid is not only good looking, but also too funny. He didn't think like Yan Rong said, don't let Liang Xi know that the two of them had slept, but he denied the idea as soon as it came up. Yan Rong's current description of the dress, if you know a little bit of personnel and take a look, you will know what happened. Liang Xi is a very protective person, even if he doesn't like Yan Rong, who was brought back by mistake, but this child is his nominal adopted son after all. Seeing the beautiful half-race son who went out to school was spoiled by someone unknown. If you have to stand, you will not be able to stand firm, 80% of them will be bombed, and then I am afraid that you will have to dig 3 feet into the ground to catch the culprit. Wang Jin thought about it, and it is definitely much better to confess his fault voluntarily than to confess his guilt after being caught. Seeing that Wang Jin could not be driven away, Yan Rong refused to go upstairs and stared at him angrily. Wang Jin looked at no one to the left and right, stretched out his hand and said, "Uncle, carry you up." Yan Rong. He limped into the elevator, and Wang Jin followed. He huddled in the corner of the elevator and didn't dare to get too close to Wang Jin. Wang Jin regretted secretly and said sternly, "I'm joking with you, don't be nervous. Last night was an accident, I already regretted knowing you were so young in the morning, and you are Liang Xi, my son, I am your uncle." Yan Rong scolded, "Your uncle?" Wang Jin changed his mouth and said, "I am also your elder, and I will not have any unreasonable thoughts about you." Yan Rong frowned, obviously not understanding. Wang Jin saw it and explained, "I just want to seduce you again." Yan Rong, who learned a new idiom, is going to vomit blood. Liang Xi opened the door for them, saw Yan Rong first, and immediately cursed with a dark face, "You still know where you are back? Where did you go? How dare you not answer the phone?" When Wang Jin rang the doorbell, Yan Rong was already nervous. Now he was yelled a few words, his head was lowered lower, and his shoulders trembled slightly. Wang Jin thought, "Is she crying?" Liang Xi roared Yan Rong before seeing him, and said in surprise, "Why are you here?" Wang Jin looked at Yan Rong and said, "I'll send your son back." Liang Xi looked strange, turned back and called home, "Daughter-in-law, this kid is back." His son-in-law and daughter-in-law, Bo Tu, is a movie superstar, handsome and good acting, and is a domestic first-line niche. Wang Jin had met him before, and at first he felt aloof, but after several encounters, he realized that he was a very kind person. Liang Xi let them both go in, and Bo Tu greeted them from the inside. He didn't even bother to fight Wang Jin. He stepped in front of Yan Rong a few steps and said anxiously, "Where have you been? Don't come back again. I'm going to call the police, do you know how worried you are?" Yan Rong, who kept her head down, raised her head, her eyes were really red, and she opened her mouth and called out, "Brother Batu." Bo Tu obviously has no experience in coaxing crying, so he panicked, but instead coaxed Yan Rong. The more he coaxed Yan Rong to cry, the more fiercely he cried. Wang Jin moved and looked at Liang Xi. Liang Xi probably thought that no one was paying attention to him, and rolled his eyes to the sky. Wang Jin thought to herself that the person Yan Rong liked but could not get was either Bai Tu or Liang Xi. He has only been in China for a few months, and he was sent to a boarding school when he first arrived. Except for the teachers, he was surrounded by people around his age, who could make him. There are only these two adoptive fathers who are called brothers. Bai Tu is a popular idol, and her external conditions are naturally very outstanding. Liang Xi and him stand together, and they are a good match even in terms of looks. Liang Xi always says that Bai Tu is his daughter-in-law, but Bai Tu's behavior and even personality are not at all feminine. Liang Xi himself is a yuppie guy, and the two people's attractiveness to women and number 0 are indistinguishable. So it's fair to say that Yan Rong likes it. It seems that he is very close to Bo Tu, and is a little afraid of Liang Xi. But young people are more likely to shrink in front of people they like, and involuntarily become timid and restrained. Wang Jin prefers the conclusion that Yan Rong secretly loves Liang Xi. But looking at Liang Xi's eyes that are turning to the sky, maybe he doesn't like Yan Rong, not only because he missed the little baby and angered you Yan Rong, 80% of the time he felt that Yan Rong was wrong. Suspected that the adopted son hit his daughter-in-law's idea. The above is Wang Jin's brain analysis in more than a minute. He will not be so bored to say this idea, it has nothing to do with him. Yan Rong just cried and didn't say a word. Bo Tu couldn't coax him, maybe he also felt that the child was in a wrong state. He looked at Wang Jin while coaxing, his eyes were a little uncertain question. It's just that he doesn't know Wang Jin very well, so it's hard to ask some words. I'll take him back to the room first, Liang Xi, pour a glass of water for the second brother. He politely said to Wang Jin, second brother, you sit first. The fathers of the Liang and Wang families also have friendship, and Liang Xi is also called the elder brother of Wang Jin, and he should also call Wang Jin second brother when he is a child, but Liang Xi is not used to being called, he was not willing to call him, but Bo Tu called him so politely every time he saw him. Budo dragged Yan Rong back to the room. As soon as they left, Liang Xi squinted at Wang Jin and said, second Wang, what are you doing wrong? Say it yourself. Wang Jin sighed heavily and called, hello, father-in-law. Liang Xi, Wang Jin said, please calm down first. Liang Xi angrily said, I knew you were shameless, but I didn't expect you to be so shameless, so quickly take off your pants and show me if you have a new diamond under you, my son, you dare to sleep. Wang Jin explained, I didn't know it was your son when I slept. He is so beautiful, he doesn't look like you at all. Liang Xi scolded, nonsense, my wife and I can't have mixed blood, what are you talking about? You can sleep if you are not biological. Wang Jin corrected her attitude and said, it's my fault, I shouldn't be confused by beauty, and I accidentally slept my nephew. Liang Xi said sternly, the crime has been committed. Wang Jin said, after drinking. Liang Xi looked at him suspiciously and said, don't you drink alcohol? Wang Jin said, he was drunk. Liang Xi was even more angry, then your brain was kicked by a donkey? He is a child with no hair, how can you sleep? Wang Jin is very innocent at this point, saying, he has neat hair. Liang Xi, as you know. Wang Jin thought, if you knew it, would it be okay? He recounted how he picked up Yan Rong in the square last night, and finally said, although it was a misunderstanding, in the end I still blame me for being affectionate. You were so fierce to him when he entered the door just now. To see how frightened him, how much he cried. Liang Xi shook the pot and said, bah, that's what scared me? It's obviously disgusting by you, so I'll be disgusted by an old man. I'd be disgusted too. Wang Jin said, then Bai Tu must not be disgusted to death. Liang Xi, who is a few years older than Bai Tu, scolded, get out. Wang Jin saw that his attitude was softening, and said, wait a minute, don't your daughter-in-law ask you to pour me a glass of water? Liang Xi glanced at him in disgust, poured a glass of water, and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. Embarrassed, instead, he became divided. After thinking about it, it seemed that he could only scold him for a few shameless words. Besides, Wang Jin can't really blame Wang Jin for this. He and Wang Jin grew up together, and he knew that Wang Jin didn't like to make up nonsense. He said that he picked up drunk Yan Yan on the road last night. Rong went home, then he really picked up a drunk Yan Rong on the way home. Yan Rong looked a little older than his actual age, and he was so beautiful. It's not surprising to see little Daisy, this is Wang Jin, and she can send people home completely. If you want to change someone else, something worse might happen. At the end of the day, Liang Xi's whole thought was to take Wang Jin out. After all, compared with Fa Xiao, Yan Rong, an adopted son with a false name, should not be an outsider anymore. Such a result, when Wang Jin came, he also estimated very clearly, otherwise he would not come to the door to plead for the crime. He relied on the fact that Liang Xi was ferromagnetic, and knew that Liang Xi had nothing to do with him. He took advantage and sold well, but he was inevitably a little sympathetic. Yan Rong was a little pitiful. But he immediately felt too fake. In the room, Yan Rong finally stopped after crying for a long time. Batu, who had been with him all the time, asked carefully, "Where did you go yesterday? Why didn't you call back? Did you lose your phone?" He was young, but he was not stupid. He knew that Batu had probably guessed something, but he was embarrassed to say it directly. He was a little sad and felt even more ashamed, but Batu didn't say it, and he didn't even want to tell the story of having slept with a stranger. At Brother Wang Jin's house, he said he saw me sleeping on the side of the road, so he took me back to his house. Batu was quiet for a moment, then said euphemistically, "Does your head still hurt? Do you feel any discomfort?" Beto watched him lie down before getting up and going out, closing the door gently. Yan Rong lay sideways on the bed, staring blankly at the thick blackout curtains for a while, then pulled up the quilt to cover his head. After more than a week, Wang Jin has almost forgotten about this matter. Just after the New Year's Day, the hospital will be full after the holiday, and there are not enough staff. He also sat in the clinic for 2 days, and was busy in the morning. "I have to fly, there are often major and minor operations in the afternoon, overtime is common, I fall asleep when I get home from get off work, and I have to rush out to work in the morning when my beard is not clean." Dr. Wang was very haggard, psychologically extremely hungry, but physically he didn't even have time to masturbate. So Yan Rong went to the hospital to find him, and also wore the dark military uniform of the international school, looking embarrassed, said from her pink lips, "Brother Wang Jin, I want to be with you." Dr. Wang almost shot directly in his pants. How does Yan Rong know that he is a serious uniform control? Yan Rong is sober, he knows what he is doing. During class break today, the teacher asked him to go to the office and asked him with concern, "After the Spring Festival, do you want to transfer? Or do you want to go back to Sweden?" He didn't understand and was very at a loss. Liang Xi and Bai Tu are both celebrities. Generally, if there is anything in the school, usually an assistant of Liang Xi will help to deal with it. They will be very careful not to be recognized when they occasionally came out, so the teacher didn't know Yan Rong's detailed family situation. The teacher didn't seem to know, and said, "The gentleman who will come to pick you up every time you have a holiday called just now and asked about the school's withdrawal procedures, saying that it was your father who wanted you to change the environment." "What? He hasn't told you to help you with the withdrawal procedures." She doesn't mean anything else. She likes Yan Rong very much. Among the overly lively teenagers in the class, Yan Rong is not only quiet and steady, but also the most serious in her studies. The teachers in Li were chatting, and many girls' teachers said that they wanted a beautiful and well-behaved mixed-race son like Yan Rong. Yan Rong panicked. His biological parents died in a plane crash 1 year and 2 months ago, and he was sent to the orphanage. As an orphan, he was obviously too old to reach adulthood. Several months passed without waiting for those who are willing to adopt him. For a time, he despaired that he would grow up in the orphanage, and then, like every adult orphan, he had to leave the shelter of the orphanage and live alone and with difficulty. One day 6 months ago, the social worker told him that an adoption application submitted by a Chinese family met his requirements. Although he did not have a mother, he would soon have a pair of new fathers. He was in anxiety and anticipation, couldn't sleep all night. He finally had the opportunity to have a new family, which made him feel that the future was full of light. He was not too aware of gay's meaning, only know that two people of the same gender choose to combine, but what does gender matter? That would be his future family, which is more exciting than anything else. A few days later, he met his new fathers. They were much younger than he thought, and the surprise and stun they showed at the moment of seeing him made him feel overwhelmed. From that time on, Yan Rong knew that she was not welcomed by the new family. This was an accident that no one thought of. This couple of Chinese husbands applied for adopting a baby, and I don't know which link came out. By mistake, Yan Rong was sent to them. Although they didn't like him, they reluctantly accepted him, brought him to China, hired him a Chinese teacher, sent him to the best international school, and gave him the best material conditions, and even gave him a platinum credit card. He always knew that they planned to send him abroad to study when he was an adult, and Patu asked him which country he liked best, but he didn't ask him if he wanted to go out. There is no doubt that Liang Xi and Bai Tu are very kind people, they just don't love him. Even so, Yan Rong didn't want to leave. He doesn't want to go anywhere, he just wants to stay in China, stay in Beijing, stay with his sweetheart. Even if he never gets it, he will not give up his wishful thinking. All passionate and young hearts often have a fluke, what if? The winter vacation is still half a month away. After the spring festival, he may be sent abroad, and he has to find a way to stay. He has nothing in China, and the only tie that can convince others to believe is the Christmas Eve not long ago. He didn't want to see the hypocrite doctor again, but he had no other choice. Brother Wang Jin, in the doctor's office, he called out bravely, very embarrassed, he pursed his lips and said, "I want to be with you." Dr. Wang, who was wearing a white coat and a pair of rimless glasses on the bridge of his nose, did not respond, and only looked at him with a strange look. In the obscenity space that no one knows about, Wang Jin has made Yan Rong in uniform cry tens of thousands of times. The white coat was about to hide his high desire. He forced himself to stop and said calmly, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" Yan Rong couldn't call out that name anymore, so he said it again, "I said, I want to associate with you." He felt that Wang Jin would not reject him, he knew that he had a face that could not be rejected. Wang Jin said, "Oh, I don't want to." Yan Rong's face instantly flushed, because of the shame of being rejected. Wang Jin asked, "Why are you dating me?" Yan Rong wanted to say what he had made up, saying that after that night, he never forgot about Wang Jin, and before he spoke, he met Wang Jin's meaningful smiling eyes, and he felt that he had been seen through, those outrageous lies can't say a word at once. In the panic of being seen through, he realized what a ridiculous thing he came to find Wang Jin. Wang Jin looked at Yan Rong's drooping brows and sighed slightly, could it be? The children finally found out that those thoughts that they thought were buried deep within themselves were not hidden from Liang Xi and Bai Tu, so they wanted to use him as a shield? Young is so good, I want to come out, no matter the cost, and I don't want the consequences. If you don't want to tell me, then I won't ask. Wang Jin said. Yan Rong was still nervous and looked up at him. Wang Jin smiled at him and said, "Yan Rong, I don't want to date you, I just want to have with you." Yan Rong's eyes widened, surprised and stunned, he thought he had misestimated the level of Wang Jin's clothes. Wang Jin's tone and demeanor were not frivolous, and he said calmly, "I am not married, I don't plan to get married, and I don't plan to fall in love. If you want to be with me, we can establish there is a certain exclusive sexual relationship, you can start it if you want, you can end it any time you want, and if you feel comfortable with it, we can be together." Yan Rong looked stunned, and asked after a while, "What is a certain exclusivity?" Wang Jin said, "Before this relationship ends, I will only date you alone." Yan Rong said, "You?" Wang Jin added, "You can only sleep in my bed." Yan Rong took a deep breath, turned and left. He went out, stopped outside the office door, struggled for a moment, then turned back. Wang Jin sat on the spot without moving, still waiting for him. Yan Rong said in frustration, "I accept." Wang Jin asked, "Effective immediately?" Yan Rong exhaled a long breath and said, "Okay." Wang Jin squinted his eyes, fell on the collar of Yan Rong's uniform, and said softly, "What time is the class in the afternoon?" Yan Rong realized something, the thought of seeing death just now turned to dust, her lips trembled, and said, "I asked for leave, I have to go back immediately." Wang Jin smiled and gave him his mobile phone number. He left immediately. After a few days, he disappeared and did not call. Occasionally, when Wang Jin thinks about it, he will think about it a little. He wants to wear Yan Rong in uniform too much. On Friday night, he worked overtime and came home very late. He lay down and was about to sleep when he received a call from Liang Xi. Second Wang, Liang Xi asked in a strange tone, "This kid in our family said he was in love with you, is that true?" Wang Jin closed his eyes and said, "Really?" Seeing that Liang Xi hung up the phone, Bo Tu hurriedly asked, "What did he say?" Liang Xi frowned, he said it was true. Beauty frowned even more than he did. Liang Xi comforted him, "Don't worry, isn't Yan Rong born and raised in Stockholm? It's not surprising that he has this disease." Beto, shut up. Because they are full of sympathy for Yan Rong's life as an orphan, even if there is a deviation from the purpose of adoption, he and Liang Xi are still willing to fulfill their part of responsibilities before Yan Rong reaches adulthood. His work has been very busy, and Yan Rong is boarding at the school again. The two have been nominally father and son for more than half a year, but in fact they have been together for less than half a month, including the days when they went through the formalities in Sweden. Liang Xi is in a similar situation. The two of them and Yan Rong don't even mention the basis of their relationship, and they can't even be familiar with each other. It was his decision to accept and bring Yan Rong back to China. Liang Xi wanted a sweet and lovely little daughter, but he never liked Yan Rong very much from the beginning to the end, and Yan Rong hardly ever took the initiative to contact Liang Xi. He would act like a boy of his age but was surprisingly sensible in front of Bo Tu, and would tell Bo Tu about his experiences in school, and occasionally on weekends Bo Tu was free to pick him up. He also helps with housework. Generally speaking, Yan Rong is actually a likable little boy, except for one thing, he has an unusually favorable impression of Liang Xi. He seldom faced Liang Xi directly. At first, Bai Tu thought he felt that Liang Xi disliked him, and privately told Liang Xi to treat Yan Rong better, until he accidentally discovered that Yan Rong, when Liang Xi was not paying attention, Rong Hui secretly looked at him with an almost enthusiastic look. This matter, Bai Tu did not mention it to any outsiders. Only when Liang Xi expressed dissatisfaction with Yan Rong's love of sticking to brother Bai Tu as soon as they met, he said to Liang Xi vaguely once. Bai Tu and Liang Xi have a very good relationship, and their trust in each other is solid. I remind Liang Xi that it is not because he is afraid that Liang Xi will not be able to hold the beautiful Yan Rong, but more worrying about Yan Rong. He is too young, and indulging in fruitless and unethical emotions will inevitably lead to frustration, which is likely to have a negative impact on his future life. He and Liang Xi were Yan Rong's father by accident. The age gap is too small, and they have no experience of being a father at all. In addition to the special work, there are many restrictions. In the final analysis, in addition to double the material, the others would not have given Yan Rong much. However, at least not because of good intentions. On Christmas Eve more than 10 days ago, Liang Xi's assistant went to the school to pick up Yan Rong, but he was empty, and the mobile phone couldn't get through. There was no news for the whole day. He cried, but Wang Jin, who sent him back, confessed to Liang Xi the whole story. Liang Xi didn't want to pursue it, and Yan Rong himself refused to say that Bo Tu had no choice, and almost quarreled with Liang Xi. He thinks Wang Jin is a bastard, and what he does to Yan Rong is equivalent to rape, but Liang Xi wants to say that Wang Jin is a good person. This is a complete misunderstanding. After saying a few words, Liang Xi saw that he was really angry, so he changed his tone and cursed Wang Jin bastard. In the end, they calmed down, and the two discussed it. Liang Xi and the Wang family have a good relationship. In order to avoid the shadow of seeing Wang Jin again, it can also make him say goodbye to the hard work of learning Chinese. After all, it is the most comfortable to live and study in the language environment that he is familiar with. This weekend, Yan Rong took the initiative to call and said that she wanted to go home. As the spring festival approached, Bai Tu and Liang Xi both finished work and rested at home. The two went to school together and picked him up. Originally, Bo Tu planned to tell Yan Rong about going abroad slowly after returning, so that Yan Rong himself would have a process of acceptance. Who knew that on the way, Liang Xi said it first. Before he could blame Liang Xi for being impatient, he heard Yan Rong in the back row say, "I want to stay in Beijing." Bo Tu had to ask him if he was reluctant to give up his classmates, but he said, "I can't bear to bear brother Wang Jin, I am in love with him." Liang Xi and Bo Tu were dumbfounded. All the way home in silence, Yan Rong went into the room to change clothes. Bo Tu hurriedly urged Liang Xi to call Wang Jin. When Liang Xi finished the phone call, Bo Tu was in a bad mood. He used to have a good impression of Wang Jin. After the last incident, he felt that Wang Jin was a typical beast. Now even more unbearable, let's not mention what's wrong with Yan Rong, an adult in his 30s, playing with children's bodies is not enough, but also playing with emotions? Liang Xi saw that he was so angry that he didn't dare to say anything, and in his heart he poked the shameless Wang Lao into a honeycomb. Bo Tu entered Yan Rong's room and came out with a dark face after a while. Liang Xi dog-legged greeted him and asked, "How is it? Have you persuaded it?" Bo Tu said depressedly, "No, I don't know what ecstasy Wang Jin gave him." Liang Xi whispered, "I heard them say that Wang Lao is quite powerful." "Peto, Wang Jin is not that powerful, and both of them are just hearsay. Only the child at home can be sure that he really eats the scales and insists on staying for his brother Wang Jin Beijing. Life and death is reluctant to go abroad. He has said the truth, but he still looks like he is not soaked in oil and salt. After all, it is not biological, and he is an adult, so Bo Tu can't do anything about him." Liang Xi didn't care much at all. After another 10 days, the winter vacation is here. Liang Xi and Bo Tu went to the school to pick up Yan Rong. Not long after they set off, they received a call from Yan Rong, saying that he didn't need to answer them. He went to his boyfriend's house and 2 days later go back again. Wang Jin came home very late and was a little surprised to see Yan Rong sitting on the steps in front of the house, but it was not too surprising. When he was lying to Liang Xi with his eyes closed, he knew that Yan Rong would come to him sooner or later. In the cold winter and 12th lunar month, the temperature is very low. Yan Rong only put on a thin down jacket over the uniform, her face was white from the cold, her lips were a little purple, and she was holding the backpack in her arms, sitting there and looking at Wang Jin without saying a word. "It's winter vacation? Why don't you call me first and then come over?" Wang Jin asked. His attitude was too natural, completely different from what Yan Rong thought. Yan Rong stood up slowly and said bluntly, "I thought you would come back after get off work." Wang Jin opened the door and said with a smile, "But I often work overtime. Come in and warm up." Stepping into Wang Jin's house again, Yan Rong felt restrained and uncomfortable. Wang Jin asked him to sit first, then took a bottle of milk from the refrigerator, bit it, handed it to him, and said, "Warm hands and face." Yan Rong took it, held the warm milk bottle in her palm, and lowered her head not to look at Wang Jin. He knew what he was here for. He knows Wang Jin as well. So after a while, when Wang Jin took the milk from his hand, and then picked him up, he only stiffened for a moment and didn't object. Wang Jin carried him upstairs, he curled his hands in front of him awkwardly and dazedly, full of fear of what was about to happen, but he didn't want to be seen. He wanted Wang Jin believe that he doesn't care, and he wants to make himself believe that. When he didn't know, Wang Jin hesitated for a moment. He could see that Yan Rong didn't want to have with him at all, and he was not used to forcing others. One-sided comfort was not very suitable for him. Aesthetics. If Yan Rong did not come in uniform today, maybe he would let Yan Rong go. Wang Jin thought about it, only the last time and the last time are not much different. Then let's talk about it first. Wang Jin is basically the same person in bed and under the bed, the foreplay he leads is gentle and long. Being served by Wang Jin's dexterous lips and skillful skills, he forgot his fear and anxiety. Before Yan Rong was completely immersed in pleasure, he marked himself with lust. Afterwards, Wang Jin leaned on the bedside, took a cigarette and a lighter from the table, took out one, and didn't forget to ask, "Do you mind if I smoke a cigarette?" Yan Rong, who was lying beside him, did not respond to him. He stuffed the cigarette back into the cigarette case and asked, "Does it feel uncomfortable? Did I hurt you?" Yan Rong took a breath and said, "It doesn't hurt." Wang Jin also thinks that he shouldn't be in pain today. Although he is firmer than the last time, it is different from having no experience. He is still a little slippery. One day, maybe it will really be loose. Wang Jin didn't think about it any longer. He would turn Yan Rong, who is Shuiling, into a big loose guy. Maybe it was him, maybe it wasn't him, who knows what will happen in the future. He picked up his clothes, put them on at will, and said, "You have a good night's sleep here." Yan Rong turned her face in surprise and asked, "Where are you going?" Wang Jin smiled gently at him and said, "I'll go to other rooms to rest. I'll stay here, I'm afraid you won't sleep well either." Yan Rong, "Oh." Wang Jin said, "Good night." Yan Rong had no choice but to reply, "Good night." Wang Jin went out. Yan Rong was still lying there, and shot twice in a short time. He didn't have the strength to move his body. Fortunately, Wang Jin wore a condom consciously, otherwise it would be troublesome to take a bath and clean up now. He doesn't think Wang Jin, who is a doctor, is a clean person. Last time here, the 180 size shirt that Wang Jin found for him is definitely not Wang Jin's own, maybe which one the old bedmate stayed here. The next day he woke up hungry, his whole body aching as if run over by an armored vehicle. Wang Jin's seemingly gentle bed skills are actually more damaging. He came out of the room and found that Wang Jin had already gone to work. He left a note on the dining table on the first floor with flying font, "There are milk and toast slices in the refrigerator, enter the kitchen and look to the right, you can find a microwave oven, brother Wang Jin." He threw the note into the trash can, took his things, locked the door and left. He pretended not to see that Patu cared about him. Not long ago, he had a dream, dreaming that Bo-Tu found his mind, changed his amiable, pointed at his nose and scolded him for being shameless, and threw him out in a rage. He woke up crying, his heart was full of pain and contradictions. He didn't want to hurt Berto, who was really good to him, but he couldn't control himself. He even thought that maybe it would be nice if Pito could treat him a little bit worse. The winter vacation passed slowly day by day, and Yan Rong didn't go anywhere. He sits in his room every day to do his homework, watch movies, and listen to music. He hopes to minimize his presence in this home, and does not want Liang Xi and Bo-Tu to think that he is an influence the nasties they live. But under the same roof, sometimes things that you don't want are easier to happen. There are 2 dogs at home. One evening, he took them out for a walk. He seemed to have a little cold. Liang Xi and Bo-Tu kissed in the living room. Bai-Tu looked embarrassed. Liang Xi was very calm, but not very happy. Coming out of the bathroom, he said to Liang Xi and Bo-Tu, who were still whispering in the living room, "I want to stay with brother Wang Jin for a few days, is it okay?" He didn't care whether the two agreed or not. He put the change of clothes and homework into his backpack, said hurried goodbye, and went out. Beto chased after him and said, "I'll take it to you." Yan Rong did not refuse, and if he was alone with Bo-Tu, he would not be so nervous. On the road, Bo-Tu was driving, and he mentioned Wang Jin casually, and said, "How did he treat you?" Yan Rong said, "Not bad, you will send me a chat good night every day." Buto was at a loss for words, and then he said, "Did he tell you about your future?" Yan Rong lied, "I don't want to talk so far with him, I haven't even graduated from high school, and it's not too late to talk about the future." Bai Tu couldn't understand Yan Rong's current thoughts, and it seemed that he still couldn't let go of Liang Xi, so why should he associate with Wang Jin? He tried to have a good talk with Yan Rong, but he hit two nails that were neither soft nor hard, knowing that it was difficult to have a heart-to-heart talk with them because of their relationship, that's all. The car is at home, and it seems that people are at home. Yan Rong got out of the car, and Bo Tu worried and said carefully, if you want to go home, call me and I will come to pick you up. Yan Rong said, well, goodbye brother Bo Tuesday. Bo Tu turned the front of the car and left, saw Wang Jin open the door in the rear-view mirror, and then took Yan Rong's hand and pulled the person in. Bo Tu was very melancholy. He suspected that Yan Rong might really have a psychological problem. Of course, he hoped that Yan Rong would think clearly that Liang Xi was not suitable, and empathize with others. Liang Xi and Wang Jin are two extremes in terms of their seriousness towards their relationship. Bo Tu couldn't believe that someone would be tempted by Wang Jin after liking Liang Xi. At this time, Yan Rong's heart was beating violently. He was pulled into the door by Wang Jin, and he was carried to the sofa before he could say anything. Wang Jin is not the same as usual. Yan Rong felt a little pain and a little anger, but he endured it. It is his own willingness to exchange the only thing that can be exchanged for what he wants. What method Wang Jin uses to take it is Wang Jin's freedom. In a sense, when he promised to be Wang Jin's bed partner, he was no different from a prostitute. Wang Jin did not want to love him from the beginning to the end, nor did he want to him, but to prostitute him. Thinking of this, he felt that he should be more numb. But Wang Jin kept teasing him, and for a boy who had only had 2 sexual experiences, some of the stimulation was simply unbearable. Soon Wang Jin felt a hot flush in his palms. Then he froze for an inappropriate time. He is in a bad mood today, and as an adult unmarried male with a handsome appearance, a good income, a beautiful bed partner, and his parents never urge marriage, he has no good reason for being in a bad mood. He lowered his head and found that Yan Rong, who was supposed to be weak and confused, was quietly looking at him with a cold and arrogant look, and immediately closed his eyes after touching his gaze. Just for a moment, Wang Jin's heart swayed. He touched the face of the puppet cat and asked in his usual tone, "You are hot, have a fever?" Yan Rong opened her eyes, but did not look directly at him, looked away, and said, "I'm not hot." Wang Jin said, "It's very hot inside." Yan Rong was embarrassed by this sentence, and she couldn't help but shrink. Wang Jin jokingly begged for mercy, "Baby, don't me." Yan Rong blurted out, "Who is your baby?" Wang Jin didn't answer this sentence, patted his buttocks, and coaxed softly, "Be good, relax, let me come out first." Of course Yan Rong didn't take that baby seriously, he hated Wang Jin's frivolous address to him. He took a breath and slowly relaxed, Wang Jin slowly pulled it out. He was a little surprised, he thought that what Wang Jin said was come out. Wang Jin put on his trousers, took a wet towel from under the coffee table, and helped Yan Rong to wipe clean, with very gentle movements. After helping him clean, he said, "I'm going to wash my hands, you first play by yourself for a while." The first second was a demon, and the next second it returned to normal. Yan Rong thought silently, is she schizophrenic? Before Wang Jin came back, he sorted out his clothes, clasped his legs together, and sat restrainedly on the sofa. He thought of something embarrassing. He told Bo Tu that he wanted to stay here for a few days, and he also brought homework and a change of clothes for the winter vacation. He had already thought that it was possible to sleep with Wang Jin anytime, anywhere, but he forgot that apart from going to bed, he also has contact with Wang Jin outside of bed. Wang Jin went downstairs and changed clothes. Yan Rong pretended not to be embarrassed at all and said, "Wang Jianzhou, I want to stay here for a few days." Wang Jin, whose name was changed again, laughed and said, "I saw your suitcase." Yan Rong saw that he did not mean to refuse, so he said, "I can help you with the housework." Wang Jin smiled and said, no, I invite someone to do it. I usually don't come back for dinner, can you do it yourself? Yan Rong didn't understand what he meant and said, I don't need a kitchen, I order takeout. Wang Jin said, I mean, it's easy to feel sad when you eat alone. Yan Rong said, I often eat alone, and I don't feel sad. Then you're pretty good, Wang Jin smiled again and said, I can't. Yan Rong didn't understand what he said, so she didn't answer. Wang Jin looked at him and asked, does it still hurt? Yan Rong knew what he was asking, and it still hurt a little bit. Wang Jin was too rough just now. He said, it doesn't hurt. Wang Jin didn't ask any more. He picked up his suitcase and said, come on, I'll show you your room. Yan Rong was taken aback, his room? Wang Jin has already walked up the stairs, he got up and followed behind, still wondering if this Chinese sentence means something else. Wang Jin took him to a room on the third floor, pushed open the door, and introduced, it is well suitable for homework, and quiet, and I can't hear the movement downstairs. I come back every day. It won't affect your rest. What do you think? Yan Rong, very good. Wang Jin put down the suitcase and said, then pack it yourself, the wardrobe and desk drawer are empty. Yan Rong nodded. Wang Jin was about to leave, remembered again, and added, oh, the Wi-Fi password is Wang Jin's diamond-encrusted JJ, JJ is a capital letter, and the rest are all Chinese pinyin, do you know pinyin? Yan Rong, yes. Wang Jin didn't think this password was arrogant and stupid at all, and left with a graceful smile. Yan Rong stayed just like that. There is a big gap between the living and living as he originally imagined. Until the weekend, Wang Jin not only did not harass him all the time, nor did he ask him to sleep with him every night. Except for sending him upstairs on the first day, Wang Jin never came to this room again. Until Friday night, he was leaning against the bedside to watch a movie with a tablet. Wang Jin called and said, have you gone to bed yet? He knew what Wang Jin wanted to do, and was a little nervous, but still said, not yet, wait a moment, I'll go downstairs after taking a shower. Wang Jin said, just come down and let's wash together. Wang Jin is undoubtedly a master of flirting. Yan Rong went from being at a loss when he first entered the bathroom to gradually becoming confused, and the water temperature of the water heater only dropped a few degrees. Yan Rong's physique is medium to high among his classmates, but in front of Wang Jin, he is obviously very petite. Wang Jin can pick him up in any way, and the suspended position is easy to enter to a deeper place. Wang Jin's sense of satisfaction is huge. He likes to have with this boy, and likes to see the boy's reluctance but crying orgasm. He took Yan Rong out of the bathroom, and did it again on the bed. At the end, Yan Rong pushed his shoulders and kept making a comfortable moan. He enjoys Yan Rong's body, and is hypocritically worried that before Yan Rong becomes a slut, he may be trained to become a slut. After he was done, he asked, do you want to go back upstairs to sleep, or just here? Yan Rong closed his eyes, did not answer him, and was so sleepy that he fell asleep. He helped Yan Rong cover the quilt, put on a coat himself, and came back after smoking on the balcony. Wang Jin lay down beside him lightly. Before turning off the light, he habitually touched the mobile phone by the bedside to take a look. There is a new text message from an unknown number, I have confirmed the time. The flight to Beijing next Thursday will only stay for half a day. Are you really not free to meet me? Wang Jin frowned, threw the phone aside, and turned off the light. Yan Rong has been staying at Wang Jin's house for more than a week, and Bo Tu will contact him every day to ask if he is eating well, whether he has finished his homework, and whether Wang Jin is treating him well. He will always say that all 3 meals are eaten on time, the homework is almost finished, and Wang Jin is also very good to him. In fact, he had almost no other communication this week except for having slept with Wang Jin twice. Wang Jin is very busy. She leaves early and returns late, and never comes upstairs. Both times, Wang Jin told him to go downstairs, and they did it in Wang Jin's room. When making love, Wang Jin doesn't talk too much, and only asks him at the right time if it hurts, is it okay, is it comfortable, and do you want it to be faster? Issues like that. When he first reached a bed partner agreement with Wang Jin, he was somewhat afraid of sex. Wang Jin was undoubtedly a qualified mentor. Under Wang Jin's several guidance, he intuitively felt the great pleasure brought by the most primitive impulse of human beings. So even if he has always held an irresistible prejudice against Wang Jin, he has to admit that when he was in bed, Wang Jin gave him unstinting tenderness. Only other time when there is no need to vent his sensuality, Wang Jin is busy with work and never seems to think of him living upstairs. So, is Wang Jin good to him? He thought, Wang Jin is a perfect client. The Chinese New Year is coming soon, said Bo Tu on the other end of the phone, asking him to go home again. I'll pick you up tomorrow. Yan Rong refused. In a few days, it will be quiet here, I want to finish my homework and go back. Budo paused for a few seconds before saying, all right, don't be playful, do your homework seriously. Yan Rong agreed and hung up. After a while, he realizes that he may have said something wrong. He didn't want to go back so soon, he was more afraid to see the intimate scene of Bai Tu and Liang Xi again than to sleep with Wang Jin. But his sentence "it's quiet here" really wasn't insinuating Bai Tu and Liang Xi. He didn't think too much about it just now. He really just wanted to say that Wang Jin's house is very quiet and suitable for homework. Will Pata be overhearted? Will you hate him? On the other side, Bo Tu was full of worries. From the first day Yan Rong went to Wang Jin's house, he began to worry, and he wanted Yan Rong to come back soon. The relationship between him and Yan Rong was a bit awkward, and there was no the way to discipline like ordinary parents can only be euphemistic, but Yan Rong simply does not accept his euphemistic request. Liang Xi didn't like seeing Yan Rong very much from the beginning, especially after knowing that Yan Rong was a bit like that. He felt awkward when he saw this child, and now Yan Rong and Wang Jin have become a couple. He thought it was pretty good, and he fanned the flames and said, if he doesn't want to come back, don't ask people to come back. You can stay with your partner for 2 days during the holiday. Isn't this a good match for Mandarin ducks? Bo Tu said, what a Mandarin duck, I don't think he will really like Wang Jin. Liang Xi said, why not? Wang Lao Tu are very good, they have a good temper, they can coax people and hurt people, although they are not as good as me, they are still handsome. Yan Rong, that kid may be fascinated by him. I won't tell you, Wang Jin is still amazing, they may be very happy, you just like to worry about it. Bo Tu disagreed and said, Wang Jin did not experience anything at that age, Yan Rong just watched a few films secretly, what can he understand? What is happiness? Now the two live together, Wang Jin said. Not sure how to toss him every day. He made up his mind that Yan Rong put his hands in front of the desk and was pushed in by Wang Jin. Yan Rong was only wearing an apron and was pressed against the dining table by Wang Jin, and Yan Rong was held in front of the large French window on the second floor of the villa. Wang Jin's miserable appearance of playing around, the more he thought about it, the more angry he became. I told him to come back and he won't come back. He also said that Jing Jing can do his homework well, and Wang Jin will let him do his homework well. Liang Xi knew what he was thinking by looking at his face, and said, oh, don't think too much, Wang Lao Er is actually a serious person. Badu looked at him with a "what did you say" expression on his face. Liang Xi himself almost flashed his tongue, and changed his words, sometimes he is a serious person. Yes, knowing that he is such a person, and being so close to him. Liang Xi said sternly, daughter-in-law, you don't know him, he was not like this before. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Yan Rong was sitting on the first floor, watching the news broadcast while waiting for his takeaway dinner. When the doorbell rang, he thought it was his takeaway, so he went to open the door excitedly. He ordered a dry fried beef on the app today. He knew all these 4 words, spell it together, it became a food he didn't know about. Before ordering it, he had beta searched it and thought it should be delicious. He was looking forward to it. Beyond the iron gate is not a delivery boy, but a stranger in a suit. Yan Rong said to the person through the door, "We don't buy insurance, nor do we buy financial management." "Stranger," he said, "I'm not selling insurance and wealth management, is Wang Jin at home?" Yan Rong said, "No, he may not get off work yet." He saw a medium-sized suitcase next to the man's feet, and there were several pieces of check-in strips that were not torn clean. The man smiled politely at him, and said, "I am his college classmate, I work in another place, and I came to Beijing on a business trip. I went to the hospital to find him just now, and his colleague said that he got off work early, didn't he come back?" Yan Rong nodded. The man looked him up and down and asked, "You are Wang Jin's?" Yan Rong said, "He is my uncle. It is rare not to work overtime." On the way home, Wang Jin went to buy condoms specially. There are only 2 left at home, and there are not enough for tonight. His parents come to Beijing every year to celebrate Chinese New Year with their 3 sons. Before the second elder comes, he has to send Yan Rong back to Liang Xi, otherwise he will be caught by his father and ask Shi Yan Rong's age. It is impossible to forgive him lightly. "Next time I want to go to Yan Rong, I have to wait until next year." He was a little reluctant. Every time he is separated from his bed partner, he is usually very relaxed, which makes him feel reluctant. Not many. Yan Rong is so beautiful and so good, except the first time it was a little dry, but it got better every time. Yan Rong is very soft, soft everywhere. Wang Jin can fold him into any posture, then find the best angle and get into a place where both are comfortable. Yan Rong is magnanimous in bed, not too shy or pretentious. He will be to cry and beg for mercy, and he will not suppress his desire to call the bed, which makes him seem naturally lascivious and very charming. The fragrant picture that Wang Jin sketched in his mind before he got home, after entering the door, instantly became the taste of dry fried beef. Yan Rong was quietly eating a takeaway at the table. On the sofa, sitting upright was a person Wang Jin didn't want to see. Yan Rong looked at Wang Jin quietly. When she saw that person, Wang Jin's expression was irritable for a moment. Yan Rong thought, his relationship with this person must not be simple. The man stood up slowly, and said as if explaining and complaining, "You don't answer your phone calls, and you don't reply to text messages, so I have to come to the door." Wang Jin did not answer him, turned to Yan Rong and said, "You go upstairs first." His tone was calm, but compared to usual, it seemed a little indifferent. Yan Rong silently closed the lid of the takeaway box, put it in the refrigerator, then lowered her head through the living room and went upstairs. The room he lives in is the same as what Wang Jin said, and the sound insulation is very good. Usually Wang Jin comes back from overtime late at night and goes out to work early in the morning. He never hears the slightest movement. Not today. Not long after, he heard a fierce argument downstairs. Will that person be Wang Jin's former bed partner? The breakup is not clean? He recalled what the man looked like. Not as tall as Wang Jin, a little taller than him, about 1.78 or 1.79 meters, pale skin, slender eyes, thin lips, not ugly, but with Liang Zibai the level of the picture is too far off. Even compared with Wang Jin himself, there is a big gap visible to the naked eye. He remembered that 180 size shirt. Could it be this person? The argument downstairs didn't take long, and soon quieted down. He went back and sat at the desk, picked up the tablet, opened a video he didn't watch in the afternoon and continued watching. After watching it for 10 minutes, Wang Jin called and asked to go to his room. Yan Rong had nothing to do with himself. Wang Jin was almost as ruthless as he imagined. He went downstairs and knocked on the door to enter. Wang Jin sat beside the bed, wrapped in a dark bathrobe, with half a cigarette in his mouth. Yan Rong frowned. He hated the smell of second-hand smoke, and Wang Jin had never smoked in front of him before. He was reluctant to approach. Wang Jin then remembered and said, "Sorry, I forgot." Then he put out the cigarette in the ashtray by the bed, and got up to put the floor-to-ceiling windows of the balcony are opened a little. The cold air from the window rushed in, sweeping away the choking smell of smoke. Wang Jin asked, "Is it all right? I'll close the window, or you will catch a cold." Yan Rong said, "Okay." Wang Jin closed the window and closed the curtains, then came over, picked up Yan Rong and pressed him on the bed. It seems that Wang Jin was completely unaffected by the dispute just now. But Yan Rong can feel the difference more than anyone. Wang Jin worked too hard, not only there, but even the stroking of his palms on his body was a bit rougher than usual. He couldn't stand such strength and speed, so he clinged to Wang Jin's shoulders and begged for mercy, "Don't be like this, be gentle, be slower." He sounded like a gnat, panting slightly, blurred and fragile. Wang Jin paused, leaned down and hugged Yan Rong, whose whole body was slightly hot, and kissed him gently with his lips beside Yan Rong's ear. He just loves Yan Rong's body and the sound of the bed. Yan Rong's legs trembled, panting slightly, her arms still wrapped around Wang Jin's neck. He prefers Wang Jin's hypocritical tenderness to the rough grab. The two embraced and kissed, breathing interlaced, like a pair of lingering lovers. Same as Wang Jin's estimate, he used 3 condoms. Going to the balcony to smoke 2 cigarettes and coming back, he was a little surprised to see that Yan Rong hadn't fallen asleep, and asked, "Why haven't you slept yet?" Yan Rong looked at him and said, "I'm going home tomorrow." Wang Jin nodded and asked politely, "Do you want me to take you back?" After a few seconds, Yan Rong said, "Someone will pick me up." He didn't look at Wang Jin anymore, his blue eyes didn't know what he was looking at, or maybe he wasn't looking at anything. He was lying on his side on the bed, the quilt was placed around his waist, his slender upper body was naked, and the snow-white skin was full of scars. Wang Jin sat down beside him in the past, bent down and kissed his cheek, and said softly, "Whenever you want to come again, you can call me at any time." Yan Rong still didn't look at him, and said in a low voice, "Is it cool to be with me?" "Wang Jin," Yan Rong turned his head to the side and buried his face in the pillow. Wang Jin thinks he may be crying. After a long time, Yan Rong's muffled voice sounded from the pillow, "Wang Jianzhou, have you ever fallen in love with that person just now?" Wang Jin said, "No." Yan Rong showed his face and said, "It's the puppy who lies." Wang Jin said, "Meow. After all the time, it was the day I came, that day you took off my clothes like crazy, and when you inserted it, you used extra force, which is a bit like today, both of which are schizophrenia." Wang Jin taught him to speak Chinese. "This is not called schizophrenia, it is called abnormal behavior." Yan Rong changed his mouth and said, "Well, your behavior is abnormal, is it because of him? Did you love him?" Wang Jin smiled and said, "You think so?" Yan Rong doesn't really want to inquire about his secrets, it's just that he doesn't want to say it. Wang Jin didn't want to talk to him anymore, so he deliberately said, "What about you? Who did you love?" Yan Rong's eyes began to dodge, and said, "It's not you anyway." Wang Jin said, "I know." Yan Rong said bluntly, "You don't know him either." Wang Jin said, "Yes." Yan Rong said, "The night of Christmas Eve. I was drunk, I thought it was him." Wang Jin said, "Yes." Yan Rong whispered, "I want him to do that kind of thing to me even in a drunken dream." Wang Jin didn't say again this time, he thought it would be better for him not to say anything. Yan Rong sniffed and said, "He won't like me, he has someone who loves him very much, I hope they can always be like that." He was a little sad, even desperate. For someone else, Wang Jin would disdain this kind of secret love, but Yan Rong was too beautiful, and he felt a little sympathetic, reaching out and touching Yan Rong's cheek. He was so soft-hearted, Yan Rong must have never said these things to anyone. After all, he was a young high school student, and he was hiding this secret in his heart, and it was difficult to think about it. The next day, Wang Jin went to work as usual. When I got home from get off work at night, the room on the third floor was empty. 2 days later, on the evening of the 26th day of the 12th lunar month, his parents came from the northeast to celebrate the new year with their sons. The usually deserted villa has become very lively. Wang Jin originally thought that the next meeting or even going to bed with Yan Rong would be at least next year. Unexpectedly, this year,